Today, I want to talk about pay raises. Whenever you're up for a pay raise, whenever you're up for promotion, whenever you're getting additional responsibilities, you always want to think about, is there an opportunity to recalibrate, hopefully upward, your compensation? So I want to talk today about three primary considerations. These are the factors that I would be thinking about that drive your compensation up. That's the thrust of today's talk, although I am going to talk about a few other concepts and things I want you to keep in mind. I have a bonus tip for you as well. By the time we're done with this, I think you're going to have a better appreciation of what truly contributes to the value that you create for an employer, and then in turn, which hopefully will raise your compensation as a thank you for driving that value. Cool? All right, give me a hey in the chat if you're excited about this, if you're here with me live, if you're watching on the recording, welcome to you too. Okay, first thing is, just very simply, these are not the three factors. These are just three concepts I want you to consider when it comes to your pay raise or getting ready to discuss it. First thing is, you want to look at your accomplishments. You want to think about your future value and what your historical accomplishments are going to mean to your future value, what your future responsibilities are going to mean to your future value. So we're going to talk about that. This item number 2 is going to be the main thrust of today's talk. But then there's also a juxtapositioning. And if you don't know what that is, it's getting the other person to look at what you want them to see through a different lens, really just gaining a new perspective for how they're considering what they're considering. So I want to talk about these three things. Let's run through the accomplishments first, and I want to do this one quickly because when it comes to your accomplishments, I just want you to think back as to what you've done over the past year or even throughout your career, but basically the past year. And I want you to recognize that when it comes to accomplishments, your accomplishments and what you've done for an employer don't necessarily translate to a pay raise. If you want to get compensation for your past accomplishments, generally that's done in arrears and it's given through some form of a bonus. The bonus could be cash, the bonus could be a spiff, the bonus could be stock options, or any number of ways that an employer can give you a form of compensation. But usually past accomplishments are made whole through a catch-up payment. Now, one of the things that I want to say about your past accomplishments is, one of the things that I think people do poorly is recollecting what it is that they've done, but also don't take a look at how what they've done actually translates into value. And there is a reflection exercise that you should go through every project that you do, however long the project is, whether it's a day, a month, or a year, or whether it's something that you repeat or something that you do for a one-time event. Now, to very quickly breeze over this point of the discussion, I do have a free career achievements journal. If you're here with me live, Kara has pinned it in the chat. There are 14 different areas that will help you think about and prompt you to think about key aspects of your accomplishments that truly matter. And when I say truly matter, I'm thinking personal satisfaction, reflection, so that you understand what you've done, how you've grown, how the others around you have grown, your company, your team, and so on. But even more importantly, the value that you created. Because what most people don't do is they don't take time to consider the actual value they're introducing into this world for their teams, for their bosses, for their customers, for whomever it is that are their key stakeholders or beneficiaries of their action. When I do something right now, I'm just in the middle of a talk. I'm trying to bring to light or educate you or remind you about certain things I want you to consider. Absolutely nothing happens right now. You're just being educated. But hopefully you're going to take that education and you are going to go into the world, wherever that may be, with your employer, talk to your boss, because dear Coach Andy gave you great tips and ways to discuss certain things about your pay raise. Hopefully you will get the pay raise. That's the the value I create. It happens sometime in the future, and most of you won't even let me know that it happens, but I have faith that it does. Same kind of thing for when you go through your daily job. You don't necessarily feel successful because you haven't stopped to reflect about the value that you're adding, and the value is not found at the moment you're doing something. The value is created in the echo or in the ripple. I like to say it comes at a later date. So this Career Achievements Journal will prompt you to look into areas where you will truly discover the value you're creating. And it's important that you're doing this because, not to get ahead of myself, but the future value that you create by something you set up today matters because you're worth more tomorrow because of the value you're creating. Inside the Career Achievements Journal, I also have a link to a video on YouTube. I also have a podcast if you like listening to my audios, where I talk about my Career Achievements Journal, a tool that every job seeker and employee needs. You can watch that. I break down the 14 areas. All of that's free, but this is a great way to do some homework. Okay, this isn't even the point I want to make today about the 3 big factors, but it's something that you need to do in order to get in a great position to be able to do what I'm about to teach you right now. All right, that was a whole mouthful. I need to take a sip. If you're enjoying this while I take a sip, please click the like button, share it, make sure you subscribe to the station. Okay, now, what I want to do today is I want to go very quickly through 3 key points. These are what I think drive value in the future as it relates to your job, whatever it is that you do. But most people think that because they did a great job in the past, that they should be rewarded. Now, you want to remember, when your salary changes, the employer is paying you for tomorrow. They're not paying you for your past. I realize that if you've performed effectively in the past, all that does is make you a good bet into the future that I know what I'm getting with this person. But when I adjust your compensation, I'm really banking on the value you're going to create for me in the future, whether that's the upcoming month, the upcoming year, or whenever that period is. So let's talk about the different scenarios that you might go through and how they can affect those numbers. And when I say numbers, I mean comp. All right, futuristic point number 1. This is big factor number 1. Your current trajectory. How much better will you be? So here you are, minding your own. I'm Dear Coach Andy. I'm going to be Dear Coach Andy tomorrow. My title's not changing. A lot of my activities will be similar. I'm going to help you with job searching and career development. I'm going to do that through my workshop events, through my Thursday live office hour show, through my books, through all my downloads, my templates, and all that. Well, that's just going to keep going, right? So that's me on my current trajectory. You're still going to call me a career coach tomorrow. My title's not changing. Maybe you're a project manager, maybe you're a senior analyst, maybe you're a system engineer, whatever you are. Maybe you're the human resources director today. Tomorrow, you're going to be the human resources director. But if you're going to continue on that trajectory, why would I want to pay you more if you're basically going to do the same thing? That's a legitimate question. Follow me? Right. Except that tomorrow, dear Coach Andy's way better at everything he does. I prepare these talks faster. I create my workshops faster. I teach better. Why? Because I've had a lot of practice. I've executed it. I have repetitions because I can make 2 widgets at the speed I used to be able to make 1 widget. I can make 10 videos at the speed it used to take me to make 100 videos. Or I should say that the other way around. But you know what I mean? Can you double your productivity? Can you triple your productivity? Are you that much faster? Which in turn creates more widgets, more services, more value with the same amount of time. So if you're manufacturing something, can you create it faster? Are you freeing up time to either create more of them, in which case you have more value, or you're picking up additional responsibilities, which we're going to cover in a second, but effectively, is the quality going up? Is what my videos today are better than my videos hopefully yesterday or the last year or the 10 years prior? So if you continued on your current trajectory, can you make an argument that you are better quality-wise, faster production-wise, or whatever it might be? All right, so that's number 1. So if I just continue, if I'm just a project manager tomorrow, am I managing the projects more effectively? Am I cranking the widgets out more effectively? All right, so that's number one. Number two, another consideration is, well, you might get additional responsibilities. And I titled this one Additional Responsibilities because you might get a title change. You might go from System Engineer 1 to System Engineer 2. You might go from HR Manager to HR Director. You might go from Vice President of Sales to Chief Operating Officer. So are you getting additional responsibilities? Whether your title is changing is irrelevant. If your title is changing, it could just be a title change. Some companies do that. It could be a title change and a suite of responsibilities change, in which case you're getting more. It could be, I'm the account manager and I'm responsible for all the clients in the central region. I'm now picking up the Rocky Mountain region. I just doubled my regions. Okay, well, those are additional responsibilities, even though you might be doing the same act. Follow me? So there could be wholesale additional responsibilities, like I was formerly responsible only for sales. I'm now the Chief Operating Officer. I'm responsible for sales, marketing, and services. That's one case. Or I'm a project manager. I was handling only one project. My title didn't change, but because I'm more seasoned, I now can actually inherit another project. I'm managing two projects, and I'm still a project manager, or I might get a promotion and I pick up a project. Whatever it is, these are new responsibilities any which way they come. And it could be in place of what you were formerly doing, or it could be in addition to what you're formerly doing. But the point is, those additional responsibilities could carry additional compensation. And when you look at these additional responsibilities, what new benefits are you creating? So if I was able to manage one project and you were paying me $100,000 because I was creating value, that's great. But now I'm managing another project, and that other project is also creating more value. Therefore, logic would say I'm more valuable to you, and as a result of my greater value and the contributions I'm making, my compensation should go up in some relation to that. So what are the additional responsibilities? Some of you might say, I was just a player. I was just managing my book of business as a seller. Now I'm a player coach. I'm still just managing my book of business, but now I have to coach the other 5 salespeople, or I'm responsible for tutoring them and mentoring them, or quality assurance reviewing their processes or whatever. That could be additional responsibilities. Pick up a new project, pick up a new division, or whatever. This is item number 2. I had a coaching session a few weeks back with a woman who's a senior data manager. But in addition to doing her data management stuff, she had also inherited operational improvement projects, streamlining contract negotiation processes, and other things that, even though her title hadn't changed, she was making major contributions because of these additional responsibilities that she had inherited. And we wanted to make an argument, A, that she was worth more, and B, for future employers, she wasn't just a data manager. She was she was doing these other things, which made her much more like an operational consultant. So not only were we trying to position her within her organization, but also position her externally. So think about that. And then future item number 3 is any additional projects. Do those create new values? So you might not be inheriting whole new sets of responsibilities, meaning you might not be the VP of sales who gets promoted to the chief operating officer, who now is inheriting not only in sales, but marketing and service. So it might not be something like that. It might be that that example that I just gave you with the woman who had data management, but now she also has operational improvement initiatives, or it could be the project manager who's picking up an additional project. Any new initiatives should translate to more compensation. Or another way of looking at this third item is perhaps you're in a situation where you were the project manager, you were managing a project. Last year, the project was operational improvements for the back office. We were looking at more efficient ways to create an operational structure that was streamlined. We were wasting some steps. It was costing us money. We had duplicate entry of stuff. And anyway, I cleaned that up and that's all done. That's last year. Next year, I'm inheriting a new project. It's going to be my only project, but this one is a front-end project. It's helping the sales team become more effective at generating prospects, closing sales, generating revenue, and so on. Maybe the value of what you're doing, even though it's the same thing, is actually much higher. So these new projects could be new in terms of value, not necessarily responsibilities. This is another way to look at, are you worth more? Okay? So wait, just quickly recap. I want you to think about current trajectory. If I just continue doing what I'm doing, how much better am I? And am I able to crank out 2 widgets instead of 1? This one here, additional responsibilities, could be a title change in additional responsibilities, or maybe it's just additional responsibilities. Maybe you just inherited a team. Who knows? This one, maybe your project changed and there's more value. Hopefully there's not less value. Hopefully there's more value. It's another way to think about it. So those are three huge factors. Now, as a bonus tip, I mentioned earlier this card where I talked about juxtaposing. Well, when I talked about in the beginning how your future compensation is actually to pay you for future activities, right? Your salary increase. Well, it should be based on what you're going to do tomorrow, and you don't necessarily get to lean on what you did in the past as an argument to raise your rate. However, this is where we get to even it up, because from a juxtapositioning perspective, if you're going to be working in the future, your employer should consider what the future rate is in general, not just for you. Do you know what I'm saying? Do you always hear me say, hey, there's no market pay for salary when you're negotiating salary if you're trying to lean on, well, these other companies are offering, well, go ahead, go work for those other companies. Maybe they're more desperate than we are. Maybe they would value you more. It's based on future value of what you're going to contribute. But it's a transaction at any moment in time to determine how much I'm going to pay. I use my house as an example. On some website, the house is listed as an appraised or estimated at some certain value, except that doesn't mean I'm going to get that value. It's based on the buyer's situation as well. Is the buyer really desperate? Are they willing to pay more? Is the buyer not so desperate? They want to pay less. Am I more desperate to sell? Same kind of thing. Well, when you look at and you say to your employer, okay, I'm inheriting new responsibilities. I'm also going to be working on new projects. I'm going to be creating more value. I can crank the widgets out faster, so on and so forth. You need to take a moment and say to the employer, okay, well, what's the new rate for somebody that can do that? If you actually had to pluck somebody off the street right now, what would you have to pay them? Because I'm here, I don't want to be penalized, because if you actually had to pluck somebody off the street and replace me, how much would you pay? Now, you would probably, not always, probably have to pay more. Not always, but probably. And what would you be losing? You might be inheriting a learning curve, somebody who actually has to at least learn either how to do what I do or learn it in this environment. There could be additional expenses internally and externally. Well, you're going to have the recruiter spend time. You're going to have to spend time interviewing. You're going to hire somebody. You're going to have to spend time onboarding them, and so on and so forth. There might be recruiting costs, time, relationship capital. I have credibility, and so on. So you want to make sure that if need be, part of your discussion centers on, well, could you even imagine if I wasn't here? And who would inherit this? And if they say, well, I'll get somebody else on your team to take that slot, that's fine. You're going to have to backfill that role. There's still some cost. So much like when you're hiring somebody from the outside and you're going to have to paying them more to get less value, at least initially, than I can contribute, can we at least factor into the discussion or factor into my compensation the juxtaposition of you having to replace me? Now look at it from another angle. Because while you might not appreciate my past contributions or want to factor those in, what happens if you had to start cold? So this is an additional way to get them to look at from your perspective, what you're actually worth, not only based on your track record, but also if somebody was to replace you, what would that cost them to backfill? And that can be part of the discussion. So when you're looking at the three primary factors of what you're going to do in the future based on your current direct trajectory, based on any additional responsibilities you're going to inherit, or based on anything that you're going to do from the value a new project's going to yield, one of the other things you want to factor in is the juxtaposition. So those are some big considerations that I want you to think about. And this also applies for any of you that are negotiating salary with a new employer. You want to think about, well, what value am I going to be creating? What responsibilities am I going to be doing? And what am I seeing in the market? So I hope you enjoyed that, but I want you to make sure, don't forget to grab the Career Achievements Journal. That's free. But just think about these factors whenever you're talking with your employer, your boss, your management team, or whoever's deciding your compensation going forward. Don't forget to look at the future from those three angles. All right, hope you enjoyed that. If you did, click the like button. Make sure you subscribe. If you're here with me live, we're going to the Q&A. If you're watching me on the recording, I will see you next week.